Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed. We are exploring a key idea within our society that blocks us from participating in truth and philosophy. That is, there is no point to philosophy because everything is relative to our own perception. What seems true to you is true to you. It's your truth. And if something else seems true to someone else, that's just as true as your truth. Everything is relative to personal opinions and perspective. So last time we pushed the implications of that. Where does that lead? What does that mean? And we explored things like, well, if it seems like the sun is falling out of the sky, in the evening time, then that's true. Because it seems to be the case. Oh, and also if knowledge is perception, then when you can't perceive your beloved, when you turn out the lights, you won't know who you're with, and you won't know how to relate to her. Also, if knowledge is perception, and a baby can see the same thing that a man does, then they both have equal knowledge. And if you perceive an ancient Chinese text, you know Chinese now. So this is a way of exploring that idea, and by the way, a common idea. An idea that we tolerate, or that is used to tolerate the existence of religion and political figures, specifically conservatives, but political figures who don't have any expertise. They say, well, it's my belief, it's my opinion, it's my perspective that my billionaire friends should have all the money. And that's just as true as anything else. Or that women are less than men because the Bible says so, and all that sort of stuff. Now, I've also pointed out that it doesn't seem to go both ways. When you judge or challenge them, you can't, because everything is relative to personal opinions. There's no objective truth. Who are you to say that is wrong? But when they get mad at you challenging them, when they want to silence dissenters, then that's true. It is objectively wrong to challenge them. Another example of a contradiction. Everything is relative to personal opinion. There is no truth, except for that statement I'm making. So the statement itself contradicts it. Another contradiction, people's state of mind or way of being. Specifically, hey, you shouldn't be upset about what religious people do to their children, to non-religious people, that they yell at or murder or abuse. Don't be upset. We're all entitled to our own opinion, aren't we? However, those same people, when a philosopher or someone like Joseph comes along and says, oh, by the way, that's not true. There is truth, and it's important that we understand truth in order to solve problems and reach our excellence. In fact, that's the meaning of life. Then those people who say, hey, don't get upset about what I'm doing, or don't get upset about any opinions because nothing really matters. If everything is a matter of opinion, then nothing really matters. But they seem to get very upset when somebody says, oh no, there is meaning, there is truth, there is understanding. So their state of mind shows a contradiction. So that's what we were doing, and Aaliyah jumped into the conversation, and she had fun herself creating, having fun creating humor, pushing the implications of this false belief. She talked about, hey, nearsighted people and farsighted people. If knowledge is perception, then nearsighted people can be really knowledgeable about things close to them. And farsighted people can be really knowledgeable about things far away, and both of them will be completely ignorant about things that happen to be in middle distance. And we had a lot of fun. And of course, the person who was opposed to understanding couldn't participate in that fun, and instead got rude and mad that they were having fun because they were blocked from understanding. Now, it's not the sort of fun that is exclusive. In other words, it's not a personal joke. We have a personal in-joke that we criticize that other. No, we let people in. We're explaining how to reason. We're explaining how to understand. We're explaining the mechanics behind the joke. So it's not that we are having a little secret in-group joke that we are refusing to explain with understanding. No, we're doing the opposite. It's that Harry doesn't like understanding because, well, likely his upbringing. Because we have to get these beliefs from somewhere, and you can't reason a belief. It's based on appearance.
People don't logic their way into stupid positions. They stupid their way into stupid positions.
I have a little bit of a cold today. All right, so that's where we are. And let's jump in. So we have to keep in mind meaning in the idea that we're exploring this idea not just for fun, but because it affects us. And here we have Elia pointing out, yeah, the sorts of people who say everything is personal opinion, they seem to be very rude. And when anyone challenges them, they don't get excited to explain what led them to that conclusion, like someone who with understanding would be. They have contempt for those who disagree. Like, how dare you question me? Which makes you wonder, who did they learn that from? And of course, if everything is opinion, there's no judgments. You can't judge a bad thing as being bad. That's just an equal and valid opinion. So Joseph introduces the idea, who should judge whether or not a sandal is good for his feet? Someone with knowledge or someone who has no knowledge? Aaliyah says, of course, someone with knowledge. I'm gonna have to get another jumper. I don't like this one. Oh, and by the way, if they have knowledge, then they might be able to explain what convinced them, on what basis they made that judgment. And people who actually are experts are usually quite pleased to share what led them to that conclusion. Whereas people who think it's all relative say, well, if it seems so, then it must be so. And you might ask them, well, is what you just said true? Why is what you just said true? Why is the statement, if it seems so, it is so, why is that true? And they'll say, well, because it seems to me to be true. So it's circular, recursive, another kind of absurdity. You hear this from religious people as well. Why is the Bible true? Because the Bible says so. Well, why do you believe that? Because the Bible's true. Why is the Bible true? Because the Bible says so. So we're seeing absurdities and we're seeing contradictions. And we're seeing circular logic. Now, in order to unpack and free ourselves from such limiting beliefs, blocking us from participating in truth and learning and growth and education, and judging fascists who are destroying our world and murdering people for fun and profit. So it's an important thing to do, what we're doing here. Looking for a key word. Aaliyah points out, well, their reasoning seems to hang on a key word, seems. If it seems true, it is true. And Harry says, Harry tries to be clever. Actually, it's a compound sentence, blah, 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 blah. And don't fall for his rhetoric. So we see people who are interested in opinions and belief or debate pros. Debate pervert. They think their game is to win, defeat the other person. Don't fall for his arguments. It's all rhetoric. Just stay on my team, he says. Now we know that if we approach truth and humanity as a team sport, only bad things happen. Which is why capitalism is fundamentally terrible and inhuman. We shouldn't be competing for houses because you'll end up with, well, what happens at the end of a competition? One person wins, everyone else loses. One team wins the Super Bowl, one person wins the race. The end of a musical chairs game leaves all the children not playing and one person playing, completely isolated from his friends. Musical chairs. So we're seeing, one company is owning all the houses, so human beings can't be safe and comfortable in a house with their life. Constantly afraid of homelessness, or constantly renting if they can afford it. So, fucking terrible. Capitalism is a sickness because it's based on competition. So we see this within. It's all relative because we can see competition, winning, defeating the other team, is the only standard of truth for is it all relative, or religious people, or Abrahamic. Because it's the worldview that functions in opposition to understanding. Understanding is where we participate in meaning and growth. We can have somebody who understands more, like a doctor, who can share that understanding to benefit those who understand less, a patient. So it's where providence happens, it's where growth happens, it's where learning happens, and it's absolutely necessary to cross the green line from personal ignorance and beliefs to transpersonal wisdom, knowing and understanding. And also to cross the purple line from wisdom to self. To know the self. So we can see this in Harry's way of being. Its image is a lightning bolt between two teams. It's us versus them. Which of course is a terrible way of treating your soul. So if this position, it's all relative, that knowledge is just perception, and everyone perceives differently, there's no specific or a special or privileged viewpoint that's superior, has a superior view of things. So we should allow religion to exist. We should allow conservatism to exist. Their opinion that they should kill all of the non-believers or the non-billionaires, that's not. There's no superior view than that. So the most ignorant and harmful views have just as much credence as actually beneficial and true ones. They'd say that what appears to them is true, and that can be derived from the fact that knowledge is nothing other than perception. And shouldn't we test this? And then we tested it with nearsightedness, farsightedness. If you can perceive a person, then you know that person. So we all should be profound psychologists. The sun looks like it falls, or the sun's moving around in the sky, so the geocentric universe must be true. The Earth is the center of the universe because all of the stars in the sky move around based on our own perception. And if you're remembering something, well, that's not strictly perception, is it? You can't know anything unless you're actually perceiving it. So there's only appearance, not knowledge. There's only the appearance of knowledge, not actual knowledge. And if a dog or cat were perceiving, and if a goat and pig were perceiving, and if a man and a baby were perceiving, they'd all have the same knowledge. Harry doesn't like them having fun. And then Joseph says, well, is everyone just as wise as you? And Harry says, actually, within this it's all relative worldview, what makes you wiser is being more flexible with your beliefs. Hey, if the tides are turning against Trump, and you spent 4 years saying, I believe in Trump, Trump can do no wrong, kill all the poor people, destroy the world for your billions of dollars. Once the tide starts to turn, you can say, well, I don't actually believe that. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Don't fight them, join them. We call that being a slave, don't we? So it's all relative makes you a cuck or a slave. Or a foot soldier for fascists. Therefore, one of the most common views held in our society, that there is no truth and understanding and reality and need for philosophy, meaning behind our dreams, ultimate purpose, everything is just whatever you want it to be. It's all relative to your own opinions and perspective. Including the main religions, Abrahamic religions, leads us all to be slave foot soldiers to whoever claims rulership. So we all become Nazis. It's a Nazi worldview. Isn't it interesting that the major religions is the Nazi worldview? The Nazi foot soldiers specifically, the slaves. Makes you think. So why? Why is that wiser? Why is it wiser to be more malleable and flexible with your beliefs so you can get away with whatever the leader is doing? You can align with them. Because there's nothing higher than pleasure. The experience of pleasure and what pleases us is our standard. So if there's no meaning in the world, if there's no purpose, there's no reason for human existence to develop understanding, to perceive truth of mind and ultimately self, to remove the problems that we face and escape the cycles of fate or problems and reach our highest purpose, if none of that's real, and there's no need for true philosophy, Hellenic philosophy, then just get your kicks, man. Just scam as many people to get the money to buy the hookers. or to do whatever. Hire the slaves to fulfill your whims of physical pleasure. So this is the dialectic that we're on now. So Joseph clarifies that's Harry's position. That is, everything is just opinion or belief. The wiser of us are flexible with our beliefs, so we can do when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Don't fight them, join them. So we can get our pleasurable physical experiences and do what pleases us. So what does a philosopher do with that worldview? Let's find out. Do you mean if something pleases you that you can judge it as true? Yes. If something pleases you, that you can judge it as true. And do you mean that nothing other than the experience of pleasure when you say it pleases? So, if it pleases and is pleasurable, it is therefore true. Do I understand you? Now, while that's a certain position, some might call that hedonism, but we also recognize it as the implications, hedonism, or seeking physical pleasure, as the standard of truth or goodness, is an implication of it's all relative, one of the four classes of worldviews other than the true Hellenic worldview, or understand, or loving of understanding, philodianoia. But what's curious about it is it kind of makes sense, because if this view opposes understanding, which is mind, then they're left under the green line. Everything is belief. But we can see on this map how if knowing is the model of reality, mind knowing itself, and understanding is its activity, we have that same structure reflected in beliefs and images. So our physical appearances in beliefs and image thinking, shapes and colors, is playing the same role as wisdom, only in a distorted fashion. And in wisdom, the words that we use to describe this peak experience of knowing is goodness, is truth, is oneness. And of course, beauty is within the category of goodness, good things, beauty, justice, experienced as bliss. So the idea that the highest goodness or pleasure is linked to truth is actually real. Only they are associating it with a false idea of goodness. So the pleasure or goodness of physical pleasure, they think, oh, must be also the most true, which of course is what addiction is. If our highest experience of goodness is what's most true, well, shouldn't we be entitled to do what's most true? Isn't that the fundamental aspect of our soul? That so we have our reasoning into oneness. So these three same words are also aspects of our soul, the forces that propel our life, our activity. When we reason and understand, we bring ideas into a oneness, a unity, a one of parts. We also have so that's a reasoning capacity we have. we also desire inwardly our goodness. We move outwardly, we seek truth. Isn't it interesting that these same three words describe mind? So if beliefs cause a fear and a opposition to mind, not only can we recognize the nature of human problems and the human condition is a war against mind, or human condition in our ignorance, or the human problems, let's say, the nature of human problems is a war against mind, we can understand it's a war against our own selves. Because the three primary psychic forces that we have as a unity ourselves, as a soul, seek oneness in reasoning, we all want to understand, seek truth in what we outwardly seek, and we desire goodness. So if beliefs teach a fear of mind and oppose mind as it's functioning, we're opposing reality and we're opposing our own, motivation, our own nature. Because this oneness, truth, and goodness are words to describe the experience of mind, or mind itself. Which is the catch-22 of human problems. The very thing that we seek as our nature, we oppose. Oneness, truth, and goodness of mind. And equally, the very thing that will help us, that's needed to free ourselves from problems and to reach what we actually seek, understanding, is the other thing that we oppose as human beings because of beliefs learnt in childhood. Which you might even be able to trace back to caveman days, before we had the capacity to reason in the way we're doing right now. The cavemen that survived were the ones that were blindly loyal to the beliefs of the cave tribe leader and feared everything outside the cave. Those were the ones that didn't get eaten by saber-toothed tigers. And now it's that blind loyal to our belief figures, our authority figures from which we derive our belief, parents, presidents, fascists, religious officials, imams, pastors, bishops, rabbis, and this fear of everything outside the cave, fear of non-Jews, fear of the Goyim, fear of the non-Christians, fear of the heretics, fear of the non-Muslims, fear of the infidels, fear of the non-MAGA, fear of the woke liberals, or the blue-haired Antifa, fear of the non-etc, etc, etc. That we can very easily see is the essential nature of all human conflicts within society and our race. So isn't it interesting that we can trace the cause of all human problems through evolution, but also recognize or describe the nature of human problems in a sentence: a fear and subsequent war against mind. And that has two aspects: the goal that we seek, oneness, goodness, and truth, and the method of reaching it, true understanding, true philosophy, or philodainoia, love of understanding. Right? Human beings are more likely to agree with whoever confirms their beliefs than ever anyone who challenges their beliefs. You ever challenged anyone's belief? How did it go for you? Even though it's true and helps them and needed and what they want, did they respond positively? But we're happy to support capitalism. allowing billionaires to enslave and murder people for fun and profit. We allow religion to exist, teaching people that they're innately sinners, or if they challenge their belief authorities, they go to hell forever. And if you're a woman, you're fundamentally less than a man because some religious bullshit. These are normal ones. These aren't crazy religious beliefs. These are standards. How long have women been able to have their own bank account? Makes you think, hey. So we're quite happy to tolerate what's harmful and causing human problems, but when someone like Socrates comes along and is actually needed, and it's good, oh, kill him. That's the nature of human problems. A savage, zombie-like, violent loyalty to your own problems. But there are some good people out there who listen, so that's all right. We're here to learn. We're here to learn. And even if it's only a few people who listen, at least you have someone to talk to. And if we don't address this, human extinction. If we do, we can create a wonderful world to live in, solving problems, reaching excellence, and realizing the purpose for the human race within a greater cosmos. But either way, you can still do the work that you have to do yourself. As Socrates says, hey, if you're a true philosopher, race to where I am, up here, where you'll find better humans than you'll find on Earth. Trust me. Well, not trust me, he didn't say trust me. He wouldn't say trust me. So we can understand where hedonism comes from. It's all relative. Blocking us from what we need, understanding, to participate in anything higher than physical pleasure. And because in reality, goodness and truth and oneness are together, it's a distorted reflection. The goodness or pleasure of physical pleasure we associate as the highest truth, and therefore we are entitled to it. Have you ever talked to someone or seen those interviews where it's someone talking to another person who has like 1,000 homes, has $1 billion, gains $1 million interest every day without having to do anything? So hey, maybe that's bad, and we should instead have a house for everyone to live in, not just 1,000 houses for you. They get indignant. How dare you? And they get angry and they want to kill the person. Oh, I deserve to be a fascist. My dad was a fascist to me. And our society says that if you're a fascist and you get all the money, that you're winning. Like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Donald Trump. We're entitled to what is our highest idea of truth or what's real, which people link to their highest idea of goodness or what's pleasurable. And below the green line, it's just ignorance. In the last book we read, Socrates and Jesus: A Dialogue in Heaven, Socrates talks about, hey, Jesus challenges this and says, well, don't you participate in pleasurable things, Socrates? Don't you have kids? Don't you, aren't you known for being a big drinker? He goes, yeah, of course. I'm not saying this is wrong. It's a reflection and not real, not the highest idea of reality. It all depends on your state. It all depends on your state of mind. You can use your partying or drinking or making love or whatever philosophically, by philosophically imagining and speculating about the actual truth of beauty and goodness and reality, that this physical experience is a message about and a reflection of, sometimes called making love with the lights on. and you can engage in reasoning. By the way, you're kind of doing it anyway, only you don't realize that you're reasoning, understanding, and imagination or speculations, knowing, that are in your fantasies are not from nowhere, they're from your beliefs. So you're doing it anyway. You're drinking or lovemaking or having physical fun in a philosophical way, only a distorted version. You are masters of contemplation, only you are putting more energy into your ignorance that keeps you blocked and suffering. That's why it's so important to have this map. Only 3 levels, 2 within each of the 3, and 1 art to go through the process of perfecting the truth, the self-logos, and purifying, letting go of our false beliefs. So, helping us to understand his position, which is what we want to do. Because, hey, when somebody says, what convinced you that it's all relative is harmful and false? You can have fun explaining it during lovely, colourful tables, or reasoning them through it. And that's also what we're learning here. So, define your position. Is it true? As a question. Because we're together. It's not competition. It's not fascism. We're together. Everyone wins. Hold on. All right. So, do I understand you? Oops. Harry, go ahead and have your fun. It's still true. Isn't it interesting that the most blocked and cruel people are blocked from actually having fun? They have a negative view of fun. Because how do you have fun? Well, don't you have more fun if you understand what you're doing? And you see it for yourself? You know what's not fun? Being a slave. Being a Nazi slave. Which the Abrahamic religions and its all relative worldview leads, well, of course. Go ahead, have your fun, he says. But don't we all know from experience that something is higher than pleasure? If eating sugar is pleasurable, is that all you would eat? If laughing pleases you, is that all that you would do? Spend your day laughing like a hyena eating ice cream? Sometimes I feel that you just find reasons to reject whatever I say is true. It really gets tiring. Notice, very common. Believers are taught, don't question the authority figure. Don't question the source of belief. So when you reason to show that their beliefs are flawed, they take it personally because that worldview is us versus them. Not all of us removing ignorance and reaching truth. You think you know the end, I think I know the end, because it's all a matter of opinion. So if you're finding reasons to show that my worldview is wrong, it feels personal. Why are you targeting my view? What about Joe Biden? What about that guy? He did something wrong. What about that guy over there? Because that's not who I'm talking to. A doctor doesn't say to his patient, well, I could treat you a broken arm, but Jessica had cancer. That's worse. So let's just talk about how bad Jessica is with cancer. No, you focus on the issue, and the most important issue or most causal issue of their problems, and you address that when you're talking to that person. So too, to Harry it feels like we're personally attacking him because we're talking to him personally. And we're finding reasons to prove what he loves and believes is wrong. Because we are. No, we're not motivated to find reasons that disproves him. But if the truth disproves him, then that's what we're talking about. To help him learn. So important to recognize that this most common of false beliefs tends to interpret what good people do in philosophy in this I'm being put on trial kind of a way. Which can be frustrating if you're talking to someone that you care about. It gets tiring. Why don't you stop making my position into a joke? I don't care if you find it funny or not. Aren't theories supposed to be capable of being disproved if they are wrong? Okay, then do it if you can, but you can't. All you can do is play the clown and get Aaliyah to join in with you and become a clown herself. Poor Aaliyah. What a way of treating women. Or your partner. In the immortal words of another Harry, make my day. Interesting. So there's us versus them. Everything is relative to belief or opinion worldview. They tend to like figures who are fascist, tyrant, racist thugs. Because they can use violence and intimidation to prove their way of being or is right and defeat difference. Like Dirty Harry. Which might be why so many conservatives like fascists, or why Trump like these genocidal tyrants and dictators. While good people don't force views on others, we reflect through understanding and follow truth itself. Follow the logos. One is a good way, one is a bad way. One celebrated in media with people like Dirty Harry and John Diehard or whatever, and one that is notably absent from entertainment media. Philosophers. Hopefully soon you can make something that's good. Right. Go ahead and continue with Aaliyah. Only please deal with the issue. You call yourself a philosopher, so let me see you act out your game. That is, if there's anything to it. Yes, I'm interested in continuing this discussion with Aaliyah. But Harry, I'm not doubting your ability, or that your teachers, or that of your teachers, remember, belief has to come from someone, to change people's beliefs. I'm not doubting your ability or that of your teachers to change people's beliefs. And I'm not joking about that. It often seems to me that persuading someone to drop one belief for another is very difficult. I think it might be easier to exchange one belief for another than to leave the comfort of belief and seek the kind of understanding that is not based upon fiction. So, persuading someone to drop one belief for another is difficult. But still, even more difficult is showing people to the necessity to leave the comfort of belief and to seek the kind of understanding that we do here. So it's difficult to change one belief for another, even more difficult to leave beliefs altogether, or cross the green line from beliefs to understanding. Oh, what an interesting predicament we're in as philosophers, or good people. Challenging people to do the most challenging thing. Leave the comfort of belief to participate in understanding based not upon fiction, but on truth. Might take courage and character. Do I have a drop for that?
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
I used to have a sound drop where Keegan Teagan would say, takes courage and character to challenge our early teachers and authority figures.
We definitely are not born with a...
But I took it off for this one instead.
Bull testicles. Bull testicles. Bull testicles. Bull testicles. Bull testicles. Bull testicles. Bull testicles.
I found that funnier. So we're learning about our job. And it's tricky. Beyond fiction, says Joseph. Wait. No, Harry. Would you clue me into what that would be? Every system is a fiction. You ought to know that. Beyond fiction? Well, that's not easy. And I'm not sure of all that. But let me try. I'd say when you move beyond systems of belief into those of understanding, and then on to knowledge, and then on to knowledge, 2 steps, you have to face their similarities and differences. The different realms of belief, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom have their structural similarities. It's comprehending their differences that constitutes the corresponding challenges and difficulties. What I mean is, as these differences generate parallel questions in a similar way, these realms require a different kind of participation. Hooray.
My head is quite large and filled with secrets.
Cookie maxing.
I have a sickness for the thickness.
That's me right now. I've got a sickness for thickness. So I'm really happy about that because what we have been developing in this map has just been confirmed. There are different, what did he call it? So there's a progress from beliefs into understanding and then on to knowing. And then also we've been calling wisdom this, but there's a wisdom is used in a different way. Can also refer to self as well. So wisdom would be a unification of the two. So that's the next step. Then there's a higher kind of wisdom called phronesis, or knowing of the self. But he's not touching on that yet. So beliefs onto understanding, understanding onto knowing, using understanding to understand that knowing experience of mind, wisdom. But to make each of these progressions, you ask similar questions because there's a structural similarity in reality. Like we see, whole and part, knowing and understanding, whole and part, beliefs and images. And each step requires seeing the differences between the higher and the lower, so you can make the jump. Sacrifice what was lower to greater participate in what's higher. So different realms have the different structure similarities. the moving beyond belief, different kind of participation. So the way in which we participate in the physical world can be through images and belief via sense perception. But the way we participate in mind or being or intellect or truth or goodness or oneness is by ousia, the mind turning about to know itself, which is the role of the dialectic. Just as we are encouraging Harry and Aaliyah to reflect on their positions, using ideas themselves from here, so too, well, that's the activity of ousia, which culminates in ousia itself, knowing. I'll turn down the talking people a little bit. There we go. So different realms. So structural similarities is a key word. Differences between them is what we're after. So what is he pointing to? Well, we've been talking about today oneness, goodness, and truth. Within the category of oneness, we looked at the parts of the argument, it's all relative. Now he's looking at the differences between the different realms of cognition and reality. Belief, understanding, knowing, and wisdom. So, there is an underlying structure behind the thought of someone with understanding, like Joseph. Well, good thing we're making notes. So, you have to, when you move beyond systems of belief into those of understanding and then on to knowledge, you have to face their similarities and differences. The different realms of belief belief, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom have their structural similarities. It's comprehending their differences that constitutes the corresponding challenges and difficulties. What I mean is, as these differences generate parallel questions in a similar way, these realms require a different kind of participation. To describing our development as beings. I asked and look what I got. Joseph quotes from his classroom notes. You recite your professor's notes and make believe it makes sense. Don't you say you were going on to explore something with Aaliyah? See, notice, he's not doing that. We just demonstrated there is a structure behind his ideas that he is using, whole and part to same and difference. There's a structure behind how he views reality. Here, different cognitive function, different realms between the lines, structural similarity, the patterns between each realm. But for someone who is stuck in this worldview that everything is beliefs or opinions or relative, all he knows in his world is copying other people. That's what beliefs are. That's why it's only catchphrases. Have you ever been into a chat room or a group with content creators that appeal to the lowest common denominator, to morons, to MAGA people, or just people who are just bad people, like mean and cruel and stupid? When they enter other chat rooms or other groups, all they can do is repeat and recite catchphrases. Religion is the same thing. Jesus is king. What does that mean? Based on what? What's your understanding? Whose interpretation did you read? Catchphrases. Own the libs. There's only one gender. It's like 5 catchphrases for fascism. So, why is that important? Because we are engaged in understanding, which allows us to understand the whole and have fun demonstrating it through different parts, whole and part. They don't have this. This is the logos. These are all ideas that are non-physical, that has scope over the physical. So in other words, as we try and help people escape their 4 classes of problems and ultimately remove any belief of the self, because each of these oppose every one of these stages of development, we have to recognize that while we are talking about the logos, the actual reality, Philodianoia, or the Hellenic way of being, they don't have that axe. They don't see the world that way. So they're going to be reinterpreting it in a way that fits whatever worldview they have. So while he's not copying anyone, he's seeing it himself. That's why we take all these pauses and do this reflection. Someone who thinks it's all a matter of opinion and belief, and beliefs are okay, thinks, oh, you're just copying someone else that you believe. Copying your teacher's notes. Another difficulty that we have to address as philosophers. For instance, Socrates. Hey, I can show you how to remove all your human problems, create a utopia on Earth, elevate humanity to a higher functioning within a greater cosmos, put an end to human suffering, and not just suffering on this life, but escaping the chains of your suffering and the prison of reincarnation. I'm not even charging you money for it. All you gotta do is listen and have fun. The politicians and their religious officials heard that as a personal attack and injustice, so much so that they were happy to murder him. That's how much goodness and truth and oneness is reframed into the worldview of ignorance. That's the catch-22 of human problems. The catch-22 of human problems is, we're humans, so we're in it. If human problems are all oppositions to the logos, well, we oppose the goodness, we oppose truth, we oppose oneness. And we want it. Our loyalty to our beliefs is because we think that that's oneness, goodness, and truth. It's a shadow. All vice is a shadow of virtue. So, interesting note. You're just quoting your notes from your teachers. Well, you're going to talk with Aaliyah, running back to the cuck chair. Should we use that metaphor? My chat keeps saying that we should use that metaphor. Some are saying, I imagine.
Gooner bait.
That's Gooner bait. Runs behind Aaliyah. Aaliyah says, if it's up to me, go ahead. I'll gladly follow if you lead. See, that's the difference. patient follows the doctor. A dialectician leads, the interlocutor follows. Believers don't like that. They take it personally, they get butthurt, and they become bastards. And they try and take over, answer my questions. And it works. One person asks the questions, the other person answers. If you want to switch roles, then the thing switches. At the end of that dialogue, you can have a go at asking the question. So, Aaliyah knows how to better play the game. She seems to be a natural philosopher already. I'll gladly follow if you lead, she says. Good. Let's take up Harry's challenge. Aaliyah, could someone claim that they believe something is true for all mankind, and yet not believe that it applies to themselves? Ah, the hypocrisy of belief. They say it should be a universal principle, but not apply to themselves. One rule for thee. Conservatism, what's that quote from that dude? Conservatism is believing law should protect but not bind the billionaires, while binding but not protecting the poor. One rule for thee, one rule for me. Everything for me, trickle down for you. So we can see that the world of principles is the realm of mind. So if you want to go to principles, you have to cross the green line. And you can't do it. Now, in one way, all pathologos block a participation in principles. But, as we can see, of the 4 classes of beliefs that humans can have, ignorance, there is one that its opposition kicks in at the state of knowing. In other words, it's okay with physical parts, unlike nihilism. It's okay with physical wholes, unlike materialism. It's okay with understanding, unlike it's all relative or the Abrahamics. Meaning, at least they have this participation in principles through understanding. So those tend to be the best people. And in my experience, these are the people more likely to listen to a philosopher. And they are the better people. Often, well, always leftists, progressives, because progressive means to progress along the logos. Conservative means to conserve your own beliefs and ignorance because you think you need them and you benefit from them. But they have to have a problem, otherwise they wouldn't have been born as a human in this realm, in this time. So they're likely to have, now they can move in and out, it's not just one, these are states of mind, but they're likely to have their main one as isms. I'm okay with understanding, but I'm blocked from experiencing the whole of mind itself. In other words, when we create a unity for my life, for my soul, or my relationships, or political unity, or spiritual unity, it's something we can make up, like Mickey Mouse. Humans can make it up. There's no true objective model. There's no transpersonal enlightenment experience of bliss, beauty, knowing. That for the sake of which all of our physical participations in fun and beauty and joy are to lead to. There's no ultimate goal that's universal, true, and peak. So, even the best people still have to address their problems, meaning the dialectic to remove our pathologos has to go hand in hand with the dialectic that we're learning from our reading. Philosophical midwifery and philosophy. And by the way, they're not entirely blocking you. Harry is still participating in understanding a little bit, or sometimes. You might even say Aaliyah is bringing out the best of him by encouraging him to participate, even though his worldview blocks it. So, hey, welcome Nitro. So if they say it's true for mankind, but they don't believe it applies to themselves, they're not participating in principles, are they? Leah says, yes, that would be contradictory and rather strange. And what is contradictory could hardly be true, could it? No. Well, this position that Harry believes to be true for all mankind is one he doesn't believe is true for himself personally. Really? Should the person who holds that each man is a competent judge of truth, of whatever seems true to him, shouldn't he be able to judge the truth of Harry's position? Or would you say no? That's one thing that he can't be the judge of truth of. If everyone's just as true as everyone else because everything is opinion, shouldn't they judge Harry's position and say, no, you're wrong? By his logic, they should be able to. So here we have another absurdity that proves a idea to be false. We've seen earlier the absurdities that follow. Oh, the sun is falling out of the sky. The circular nature. If it seems so, it is so. How did you learn that? It seemed so? Circular. What else do we have? Oh yeah, this contradiction here. Well, a non-universal nature of it, but also self-defeating. If everything is true if it seems true, then if it seems to me that that position isn't true, then it's not. So it defeats itself. The moment anyone says, actually that's not true, they should give up their it's all relative position. So, judging Harry's position, isn't that the one thing that Harry says they can't be a judge of the truth of? According to the position, since he can judge all things, he would have to be a competent judge even of the truth of Harry's position. This is why it's good to have more people there. Having a group of 3 is better than just 2, because when someone's blocked or not seeing something, you can ask the next person. And they're not dearly holding on to the belief, so they can approach it with more clarity, objectivity, and honesty. Helping them and helping Harry. It's a win-win.
Win, 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 win.
That's what I'm saying.
Can I do my plugs now? I'm trying to do comedy career.
No time for plugs.
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
Thank you. Joseph says, and in judging, could he either agree with the position and regard it as true, or disagree with it and regard it as false? Of course. That's what judging is all about. Now, about Harry. Doesn't his position claim that he can judge the truth of all things? For suppose we were to find out that there was just one thing that Harry couldn't be the judge of. Well, in that case, since his position claims that he can judge all things, I suppose you would say, at that point, he is abandoning his position. And, according to his position then, is it possible for someone to either accept or reject his position? Of course. For the sake of the argument, would you be willing to hold his position as one you believe to be true? Certainly. Then in terms of the position, could you reject it as false if it seemed to you to be so? Sure, that would follow. And again, according to his view, would Harry either agree or disagree with your judgment, especially if your judgment was that his position was false? Sure. Wait a minute. He couldn't agree with my judgment, or he would be agreeing that his position was false. Man. And what would follow if he rejected your judgment that his position was false? Well, for one thing, he would be saying that I can't judge his position as false. Oh! He would be saying that there is one thing I can't judge, his position. But that would deny the truth of his own position, since he says that anyone can judge all things in terms of the way it seems to them. So it breaks down. Anyone can judge anything, and if someone comes along and says, well, then I judge what you said to be garbage, they have to agree. Well, I guess it is garbage. Because if they don't, no, you can't say that. You can't judge that. But didn't you say anyone can judge anything? So you have no right to disagree with me. Your position is bunk. See the absurdity of belief? Is it becoming easier and easier to see that all religions, in principle, because they're based entirely upon belief, are absurd and harmful? And any political qualification that's, well, I just believe, will only do harm? Could this be what we need to see to put an end to the injustice, tyranny, subjugation facing our species by the worst members of our species? Could it just be as simple as reading this? It makes you think. Joseph. Then it appears that if anyone agrees with him that his position is true, then he can judge their judgment as true. But if anyone dares to disagree with him and says his position is false, can he judge that? He can only judge it as an opinion, that's clear. But he can't deal with the implications of judging it as true. Which is why, if you ever challenge a belief-based thinker, conservative, capitalist, clergy, or any of the politicians that are their lapdogs and lackeys, how dare you question me? Know your place, plebeian. They get angry and abusive towards their fellow human beings and reason itself because their own position that they're using to defend their tyranny can't hold up to reason. That's why the believers or fascists go after the thinkers first. The universities own the media, only hire lapdogs to be interviewers, no one with the skill of interviewing, dialectic. So if someone says that, I disagree with you, Harry, he can say, well, that's just your opinion, but it's not true. Which again breaks his position. What can he judge? Isn't it true that the only thing he can judge is what seems so? True. But not whether something is not true or false. Right. So he can neither say that he can judge all things, nor can he believe another's judgment when they reject his position. even though that's the way it may seem to them. Therefore, he can't believe his own position. So he ends up like the man who judges that only the men who agree with him are wise. And that's very interesting. Isn't that interesting? So he can neither say that he can judge all things, nor can he believe someone else if they reject his position. Therefore, he cannot believe his own position. All he can say, well, it seems true. If you say that truth is based on perception or opinion, all you can say is something seems true. You can't make any statements about whether something is true or false. Oh, big thing in chat. If the universe came from nothing, whoa, getting a bit off track from what we're talking about, but maybe it ties into what we're talking about. Then phenomena exist. Now, I don't think anyone says it comes from nothing, so I would reject the whole line of reasoning. That's why the dialectic is so important. You say, hey, by the way, you know how the universe comes from nothing? I would say, no, that doesn't make sense. How can something come from nothing? So then you would have to break down your first premise to show, let me demonstrate. So what are we doing? The dialectic. We're learning how to think. I've just defined that the universe comes from nothing, but I ask it as a question. I say, well, I disagree. I don't see that. Not because I'm debating my opinions, but I don't see the reasoning that led to that conclusion. Then you'd have to give a demonstrate. Let me demonstrate how it comes from nothing. And then I might be on board. Then you can make the next step. But I might not be on board yet. And that demonstration didn't really seem to prove it. Okay, let me go to the divisions to prove it. Let me give you an example of all of these things coming from nothing. And then from those divisions or proofs, we come to a conclusion. If all of these things are something coming from nothing, then we can synthesize a key idea. Therefore, things always come from nothing. And then the next part of conclusion is analysis, or taking that unified other back to the self. Therefore, because of this proof, we show all things come from nothing, and therefore back to the beginning, the universe comes from nothing. So that's how you would reason me through it, as we are learning to do in the dialectic. But can be difficult in chat, so we'll see where his reasoning from a potentially false premise. Again, he won't be able to see it until he does a dialectic about it, but we'll see where it leads him. If the universe comes from nothing, then phenomena exist because nothing can come from nothing. If phenomena exists, our connections between one another can exhibit the phenomena of being true or false. So with patience, one can decipher the difference between the truth and falsity, because the falsities will connect and disconnect with other, like the wind, while the truth will stay connected as the subject will identify with them more and stay connected to them. Just my take. I know you don't like my premises. No, it's not that I don't like your premises, because that's about opinions. The premise is either true or false. It may seem that your premise that the universe comes from nothing is true, but does that make it true? Because it seems to me that it's not true. So if you're saying it's true because it seems to be true, then you have to accept that it's not true, because your principle that you are using to say the universe comes to nothing, it seems to be true, or you believe it to be true. If it's a principle, it has to apply to everyone. So me disagreeing, well, it seems to me that that's not true, or I believe it's not true, then you have to agree. So what would happen if you went back and you refined that launching point? So I don't think anyone thinks the universe comes from nothing. Well, I mean, who cares what people think? But in principle, like we looked at all of the divisions, have you seen anything come from nothing? Or does everything have a cause? Now, the cause may be non-physical, and that's what we're talking about in the book that we're reading. The physical world has principles, has forces that maintain those principles, and our participation in true philosophy and understanding is ourselves using those principles to guide our own thinking and our own lives and our own relationship, harmonizing ourselves with reality or following the logos, because the logos is, well, principles, reason. Logos takes in all of these terms under one idea. So there's got to be something that causes those principles and maintains those principles and does so for some purpose. That's non-physical. So you could say the cause of the physical world must itself be non-physical, but that's not nothing. Because if we see principles of beauty, principles of justice, principles of excellence, or under the category of goodness, so principles of goodness, if we see principles of whole and part, same and different, like and unlike, or principles of oneness, and if we see principles of some things being false, some things being true, and some things being the principles for true and false to exist, so the ultimate, the greater, and the lesser, under the heading of truth, or true, then all of these things have to come from somewhere, and you've never seen them in the physical world, you've just seen their functioning. You've seen a beautiful thing, a beautiful streamer, a beautiful puppy. You haven't seen beauty itself, you haven't seen whole itself, you haven't seen greater, lesser, and ultimate itself. But these are called the self-logos, because true understanding, what we're doing here, is our way of crossing the line from the physical world to the realm of being, which is non-physical, where we can experience them. The experience of truth, goodness, and oneness, or mind, is called knowing, or nous. The understanding was our method to reach it, making use of these ideas, or eidos. And if we put the two together and use that understanding to even understand that peak experience, that's called wisdom. But what the dialogue is saying, the same sorts of questions that took us to realize that there are a bunch of adjectives in our physical world, beauty, excellence, whole, part, that led us to wonder about its cause, prior, superior, transcendent, from its effects. The painter is, if you destroy the painting, you're not killing a part of the painter. So a cause that's greater, prior, superior, but also has as the nouns what we experience as the adjectives, has as the substantives what we experience as the descriptives, which is why if your language doesn't have the word the, like the Hebrews or the Russians or other races, Bosnians, then you can't do philosophy, because we're going from a example of beauty to the beautiful itself. So that same kind of question or dialectic has a structural similarity, because if you realize we're looking at, in the realm of mind, we're looking at beauty itself, justice itself, goodness itself, the cause of the physical world, we can ask the question, hang on a second, we're using a word over and over again as an adjective. Same question. So the same kinds of questions applied in a higher way, that's called structural similarity, can help us go from wisdom, hang on a second, beauty itself, justice itself, we're using the word self as an adjective. How can we do that? There must be a prior, superior, independent cause for that adjective, the self. These are different realms of reality. So what we're seeing, so this helps us understand what's going on in this dialogue, because people who claim truth are claiming principles that can only happen in the realm of mind or the realm of self. And if they are blocked because they have the world view, everything is relative, they're blocked from mind, all they know is belief and physical senses, they can't have universal principles. It's not possible, because you don't see it, you don't find it in the physical world, you see its effect in the physical world. So we're saying, hey, this idea that only beliefs exist because it seems true, that very way of thinking, well, I could come along and say, well, it seems that you're false and you have to agree with me. Otherwise, your position breaks down. So you said everyone can judge true. Hey, yeah, let Trump be in office. He's an ignorant, immoral sociopath, scammer. Huh. He believes he's wise. That's just as true as anything else. Same thing for our soul. These ideas that I'm not good enough, or I can't achieve, or I have to do what my parents say, or my pastor says. I believe them. They feel comfortable or safe. And if it seems true, it must be true. It's my truth. Then I could come along and say, well, it's my truth that it's wrong. So all you're left with doing is agreeing with whoever agrees with your position and abandoning the own integrity of or showing there's no integrity in what you believe by whenever anyone disagrees with you saying, no, you can't be a judge of truth because you're disagreeing with me. Sycophants. Yes men. Echo chambers. Everyone at the Jesus picnic all agrees with Jesus. Everyone in the Jewish picnic all agrees with whoever they believe, Muhammad, Allah, whoever, Abraham. Everyone in the Mormon picnic already agrees with all of your dumb, crazy Mormon beliefs about magic, underpants, and soaking.
You could be a gooner
at the
bait.
Mormon picnic. You can be a gooner at the Mormon picnic. That's what all the Mormons are doing.
Please end kink shaming on your show.
I'm sorry. Oh, stop kick shaming. So all he can say is, it's an opinion. He can't deal with the implications of judging it's true. Or as Joseph says, if anyone agrees with him that his position is true, then he can judge their judgment as true. But if anyone dares to disagree with him and says his position is false, all he can say was, that's just your opinion. The same thing we see with all beliefs. One rule for you, one rule for me. Billions of dollars for me, starvation, poverty, slavery for you, says the billionaires, says the capitalists. Laws that restrict you, but no laws for me, says the conservatives. Bombs for your universities and children's schools, no bombs for ours. That would be terrorism. The nature of all human problems. So all he can do is judge it as an opinion, says Aaliyah. What can he judge, says Joseph. Isn't it true that the only thing he can judge is what seems so? True. Now that's funny. Because we've seen that Harry's position, that it's all relative, means all he can say is, well, that seems so. Seems true to you. They can't make any judgments of truth. And we know, because we are not engaged in opinions, we're engaged in philosophy, true philosophy. I always have to qualify true philosophy, because the way that the word philosophy is used is Harry, the love of beliefs, philodoxia. Modern or academic philosophy is philodoxia, the love of opinions. There is no different philosophies. There's just one philosophy. Understanding, knowing, wisdom, and self through the self-logos dialectic. That's it. Of course it is. Because if it's true, it's universal. That's what we've just been saying. So I always have to say true philosophy, or Hellenic, or Philodianoia, love of understanding. So of course he can't judge whether or not it's true or false, because he's stuck in the physical world by being opposed to understanding. So as we've just described for our friend, we have these key ideas. We also talked about the lesser, the greater, and the ultimate. Or, what color? The false, the true, and the ultimate, or the principle of truth. Or actually, we might even say the ultimate, the greater, and the lesser. Because that applies to analogy. A shepherd is the lesser, is like a king, because they both care for their subjects. But for analogy to exist, there has to be the principle, the ultimate or principle of likeness. If we didn't live in a reality where the principle of likeness exists, then you couldn't say a shepherd is like a king. You couldn't do analogy. And analogy is how we think and grow. So in terms of the dimensions of reality, we could say the lesser, the physical world of becoming, is false, giving us the false beliefs that we get from childhood, that we are here to learn about and address and remove, that prevented perhaps our spiritual development beyond the physical world. The truth, is mind or being. And of course, just as we said, for there to be a oneness of mind, there has to be a one. Beyond it, for there to be a goodness, there has to be the good or the good self. For there to be truth, there has to be the principle of true. The true self. So, given that, we can add that to our map here. Hooray. We can understand why someone at the realm of beliefs, or saying everything is a matter of opinion or belief, can never reach truth. They can never make claims about truth. As Joseph is saying, all they can say is it appears the realm of a perception or appearance. Appearance. A-P-P-E-A-R-E-N-C-E. Ants. So it seems true. All he can make is statements about appearance or seeming. Appearance. And we can understand why, because we are getting understanding. We're not saying it because we believe someone with a funny hat or who raised us when we were 4 or any of that. It's because we are understanding it. So of course, if the realm of truth is transpersonal of mind or self, the truth or the true, then you can't make any truth statement if you're pointing to beliefs. That's why beliefs in principle are always false. There's a short caveat, which is in science, you rule like you follow understanding, and you have a reason to follow the axiom, which is a kind of belief in principles existing that you need to have to begin your study of science, but ultimately you're still following understanding and being ruled by understanding. So anyone who says that truth is a matter of belief, you can't make that statement, because belief exists in the physical world of appearances or becoming, which is false, or the level of reality we call the false, the shadow, the distorted shadow. If you're making claims about truth, you have to be doing philodianoia. That's why it's the one philosophy and the new way of being for mankind, the next step of our development. Because dianoia, or mind, or being, is where the truth is. You can't make a statement about elephants if you know nothing about elephants. You can't make a statement about truth if you're not even in the realm of truth. So all they can say is, it appears to be so. Can't make any statements of truth. And you can't talk about universal principles, which again is here, the principles over the physical world, or the ultimate principle, the self. Both of which is the transpersonal. So truth and principles are transpersonal. Which is why liars and scammers and fascists always appeal to belief. They never actually talk to a real dialectician, a genuine interviewer. Well, it's my belief that the American people want us to start these data centers. And if you disagree with me taking $1 billion out of your community and poisoning everyone for my profits, then you're a Nazi Chinese spy. They wouldn't say Nazi, because for them, Nazi's a good thing now, which is alarming. So, the only thing he can say is, it seems so. Now, Aaliyah, and our question is, why is such a wonderful woman with someone like Harry, is able to say true. So they've just said someone with a position that there is no one true philosophy, everything is a matter of opinion. All they can say is something seems true. They can't make a declarative statement about truth. And then Aaliyah goes ahead and makes a declarative statement true, showing us Aaliyah is at a higher level. She is participating in dialectic, which can illuminate principles, can purify false beliefs, can make statements about truth. Her boyfriend isn't. So interesting that the person at a lower level of development is telling the person at a high level of development what to do. Hey, don't listen to him. Hey, you're on my team. All that stuff. So, telling that she was able to, so she's demonstrating what is necessary to make truth statements. Because she says, true.
You are beautiful and everybody loves you, and you have the most beautiful breasts and the juiciest ass.
Oh, all of those compliments from the soundboard to Aaliyah. Wonderful. Right, RM?
I love this guy.
She's not a guy.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
Okay. Thank you, Emma. Now, so what he can judge is, what can he judge? The only thing that he can judge is what seems so, but not whether or not something is true or false. Right. So he can neither say that he can judge all things, nor can he believe another's judgment when they reject his position, even though that's the way it may seem to them. Can't say he can judge all things, nor can he believe another's judgment when they reject his position. Even though it may seem that way to them. Therefore, he cannot believe his own position. So he ends up like the man who judges that only men who agree with him are wise. That's very interesting. Yes, a fascist, a tyrant. So anyone, all of those professions where we still allow belief to be a ruler, politics, religion, capitalism, end up with an Elon Musk, a Donald Trump, a Netanyahu, or a Pope surrounded by yes men. That's all. Fascists bootlicking fascists as they destroy humanity and the world. That's the result of belief in rulership. The only thing they can judge is, you're wise if you agree with me. Isn't that interesting? That's such a common worldview and fundamental to all of the major religions. And we still allow it in politics and in religion. Don't allow believers to be doctors or pilots. Oh, we did in the Dark Ages. When everyone was dying because we had no medicine because of Emperor Fuckface McGee, Emperor Justinian.
They're a weirdo.
Who was a weirdo, killed the philosophers and instituted Christianity. We used to do it with doctors and when everyone was dying. Now we do it with religion, politics, and capitalism, where everyone is dying. Makes you think, I hope. So all he can do is... I came up with an idea of how the deep state perishes under its own weight. Want to hear it? Sure. I don't know what you mean by deep state, but sure. Let's hear your idea. Hopefully this. This is the fundamental false idea allowing for fascism to exist, that beliefs are just as good as understanding and expertise. So, therefore, we can rule without having to ever have to explain anything, and if anyone challenges us, how dare they? And we are seeing it's falling under its own logic, its own reasoning. But, so, you're in theme. What are your thoughts? So he's a man who can only judge that the men who agree with him are wise. That's very interesting. Isn't it? Deep state is the ruling class, like a ruling class that exists under the guise of democracy. Okay. How does it collapse? That'd be neat if it does. But Aaliyah. And hopefully what results is logos, Philodainoia, as the qualification for being rulers of spirituality or politics, necessarily. Or the economy, same thing. Or what would be the ruler over those who have an expertise of economy to guide the direction, to meet human needs harmoniously with themselves, with our planet, and with the logos of reality. But Aaliyah, can it be a theory? Why do you ask? Because theories must be capable of being surpassed by newer theories. If not, it's not a theory. Simply put, a theory should in principle be capable of being disproved. It ain't a theory if it can't change. Therefore, Supporting Trump no matter what he does isn't a theory. It can't be disproved. Religion isn't a theory. It can't be disproved. That's why there's no growth. It's whatever you were indoctrinated into as a 4-year-old, you believe that as a 40-year-old, and an 80-year-old, 84-year-old. But Harry's position can't be disproven, so it can't be rejected or surpassed by others. It's be disproven, so it can be rejected or surpassed by others. Necessary for theory. Otherwise, it's just bullshit. Clever, says Aaliyah. Therefore, we can conclude it's not a theory. It can never be proven true either. So what is it? But can't it be rejected or surpassed? So, proven false, surpassed or improved on, or proven true. So what is it? I am interested in your idea, Nitro Gold. I'm just also reading as we go. Actually, okay. So it can't be rejected or surpassed because it can't be disproven. But also it can't be proven true. So what is it? She asked. A personal view. Or a position of some sort, that's all. And what kind of a viewpoint? Asks Aaliyah. What do you call something that is asserted as true but cannot be either proven or disproven? Something believed in and insisted upon even after its inadequacies become visible, and yet it cannot be rejected. What do you call that? A prejudice! Right? Prejudice? Can't be proven or disproven, something believed in, insisted on as true, and can't be rejected even after its inadequacies become visible. Is that a prejudice? Let's see. Harry jumps in. Oh, you call it a prejudice? Just look at that so-called argument of Joseph's and you'll find a prejudice. How can you go along with that, baby? But it seems right, doesn't it? What's wrong with it? Well, it's not any good. Can't you see that? You dumb broad.
How can you be this stupid?
It's great because it's stupid, but it gets a lot of attention, mate.
Hey, don't mock my accent. In the chat, let's say that Congress creates an organization that exists outside the law. And it's made of congressional members. It operates in secrecy and carries out assassinations. Seems to, yes. Because there is no limit to how many of these secret organizations have come to exist over the years. True. They may not know about each other. True. They begin to carry out missions that are in contradiction to one another. Then they catch on to one another and they believe the other is a rogue cell and they take out one another. Right. Well, we can only pray that that happens. And hope that not too many innocent people get caught in their crossfires of their insidious missions. Of course, you're right, like without principles and unity and justice, there is no honor among thieves, as they say. There's no internal group coherence for even the bad people, which is why they're racing towards human extinction. if they lack the care for human life and justice, that they're willing to operate in secret, not tell the truth, and kill people who disagree with them, which is all belief can do, then they might lack the integrity and justice to protect the innocents as they fight their holy war. Or religion, it would be called a holy war. The Jews versus the Christians versus the Muslims versus the Mormons with the magic underpants, or Protestants and Catholics and etc, etc. But yeah, it would be the equivalent of a holy war, but for the other thing where we allow belief to exist, stupidly, politics. So their political holy war might bring down the entire species. Good movie idea. Yeah, it would be a good movie idea. Now, as we've been talking about, very rarely, if ever, we see a philosopher enter a movie or a TV show. So, might I suggest, as this political holy war is being fought, there be a philosopher main character who comes in to not kill the bad guys, but to understand the cause of their ignorance and address it without needing to kill everyone and destroy our planet. And see, even the most unjust criminals that you're describing have the exact same cause of human problems and therefore are addressed in the exact same way as all human beings. So maybe you could have the leaders of both sides demonstrated to be the worst people who are heading for an inevitable clash where they bring down all of human civilization because of their ignorance. Even these worst people can be demonstrated to be able to turn around their ignorance through the dialectic, through what we are learning here, and become a model for the best person, putting an end to all irrationality and absurdity of war, secret societies, or lying, because they have experienced that all benefit they've gotten in their life has been through these kinds of dialogues with your main character. And because it's no longer belief, when somebody asks them, what convinced you that this is a good way of being, that our entire society should be based upon? They won't say, how dare you ask me a question like that, as all believers say. They'll say, oh great, let me explain what I went through. Let me explain the difficulties that I went through. Let me explain the stakes of going through this process. Let me explain the courage and character I had to develop along the way. Let me explain how I learned to understand the significance of my dreams. Let me explain the peak experiences that I had. But even those peak experiences weren't enough. I had to understand them and understand that even they had a cause. Let me explain it to you because you're asking, which can help you, but also help me, because what I have come to realize is the purpose for human existence is to share our highest understanding of what is most meaningful as a way of testing our understanding and improving our understanding, because understanding is what we can do in time. That's the art we're here to master. That's philodianoia, the love of understanding. And as they explain, not secretly assassinate their enemies, but explain openly in public, because they are the biggest leaders with all the resources, what they went through to become the best kind of man from the worst. Not only are they fulfilling their life's purpose in practicing their understanding, but they're benefiting the entire world, because they're talking about true universal principles, not false personal beliefs, opinions, and perspectives. It's a win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win. So, I suggest that for Act 3 in your movie, and I want 10% on the back end if you become a millionaire from this movie. ChatGPT would write the script and you can make the graphics. No, you write the script, because that will encourage you to go through this very process and fulfill your purpose and reason for being here in time as a human being, able to participate in problems, beliefs, and should you be given an invitation or should you be open to it, understanding. So you can go through that very process each of these characters can go through, including the process of communicating it to the others as the hero does. So, you could do it.
It's a win-win-win.
Win-win-win. So, again, 10% on the back end if you make $1 million from it. Okay, so recognizing that an idea can't be disproven, can't be surpassed, like you can't go beyond Jesus, you can't go beyond Trump, or you can't go beyond capitalism. The leaders insist that that's the worst thing. You're a communist, you're a liberal, you're a goyim, heathen, infidel. There's always a word that calls you bad. And it also can't be proved true, and yet insisted on it as if it was true. That's a prejudice, and Harry gets all butthurt about it. Prejudice? That guy doing reasoning, he's the prejudiced. Leah says. But it seemed right, doesn't it? Ah. Aaliyah is very clever. How can you claim what was said as false if your position is, if it seems true, it's true? Well, his reasoning seemed true, so you can't make that judgment, bucko. What's wrong with it, by the way? Well, it's not any good. Can't you see that? Well, what's wrong with it? Well, for one thing, I'd like to go over it once more. Logical arguments are deceptive. You ought to know that. As you ought to know. What? Logical? Okay. Fuck you, Harry.
How can you be this stupid? How is it legal? How is it legal?
How is it legal?
She's a moron. She's a bonked on the head individual, BHI.
I coined that.
No, he is BHO.
It's a total shit show.
Exactly, Emma. Logical arguments can be deceptive, Elia says. Would you like to go over it again? Carefully, step by step. Encouraging her man to be brave. Sometime, yes. What do believers do? Put it off. Ever seen any murderous billionaire having to justify their murder for profits? At some parliamentary hearing, they always say, we'll have to get back to you at some later date. What has Trump said about his healthcare? Oh, we've got future plans for doing a healthcare plan. They always put it off. Do it now. Answer it now. Sometime, he says. But wouldn't you be judging the way it seems? But by the way, but if you wouldn't be judging the way it seems, then would you? Oh, aren't you the clever one? Are you getting what you came for, dear Aaliyah? What a dick. I hope they break up by the end of this book. Aren't you the clever one? Don't you want your partner to be intelligent? Are you getting what you came for? Right? He's creating or interpreting, projecting a fiction about her intentions that align with his own bullshit belief, us versus them. She's enjoying the actual human purpose, progression through truth. Believers project. That's what they do. They project their own problems. So we say every accusation is a confession, because the way that you project from your worldview reflects your worldview. Aren't you a clever one? Are you getting what you came for, dear Aaliyah? And then we have a new member, Euripides. Oops. Damn it. Euripides may be sensing the tension and the inevitable conflict that happens in relationships when you have a belief and not understanding. Sensing the tension, Euripides jumps in and says, "Coffee, anyone?" And Aaliyah says, "You have a good sense of timing, Euripides." Speaking of timing, it's that time of the day. I've hit the 2-hour mark, and I think that seems to be a good length of time for these episodes. And if you have any suggestions, if you would like them shorter or longer, join the Discord. Let's have a chat about it. Oh, don't be too sad. I will be playing music very shortly. If you want to keep discussing these ideas and working on your movie, you can check out Jed Phoenix Music. I'll be playing some music soon. On Twitch. Let's keep going and change the subject. Yeah, we can talk about everything over there. We'll be playing songs and chatting. It's lots of fun. So what have we learned already from today? Oh, Jed Phoenix Music on Twitch. We've seen, I should put a link below. I'll do that later. What we've learned. That truth statements are about principles. And principles are non-physical or are not things of perception. They are things that are apprehended with the mind, or nous and dianoia, knowing, understanding, with capitals to distinguish them from physical knowing. We've seen the difficulties that we face because as we try our best to communicate this, people, based on whatever level that they're in, will misinterpret what we are trying to do as philosophers as their own. They'll reinterpret it within the context of their own false beliefs, making it difficult. We've seen that it's difficult to get people to drop one belief for another. I saw a comedy show. Oh, thank you. I saw a comedy show where someone was talking to a Mormon. So speaking of Mormons,
Gooners.
with their magic underpants.
Goon, 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 goon.
Guy, he said he went to Japan on a mission. And he said, "How many people did you convert?" He goes, "One Japanese person over the course of 10 years. It was a very funny comedy bit. It's difficult to get people to drop the beliefs that they grow up with because, as the Oracle says,
I'm always good. Hubba hubba. I just want more testosterone to human body ratio, and I'll finally be satisfied.
Emma, calm down.
Goon, 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 goon. You could be a gooner.
You can be a gooner. Calm down. What is it? This one?
The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
So you can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. So if it's a fundamental belief that they got through appearances, because beliefs are not a matter of reasons, they're a matter of appearances, difficult to get people out of a belief into another. Even more difficult is to get people to leave the comfort of belief itself as a cognitive function of the physical world, personal beliefs or ignorance, into understanding. To have the courage and character to let go of all beliefs and just use understanding. Or, beyond that, knowing. And beyond that, the unity of the two, wisdom. And beyond that, well, we have the self beyond that, which is our ultimate goal, isn't it? So, several difficulties faced as being a good person or a dialectician. But not only that, we've seen that there are structural similarities. As we learn to move from belief into understanding, we can take what we've learned and ask similar questions to go from understanding to knowing, and then even beyond that. Questions about causes, questions about principles, questions about substantives compared to adjectives. We've seen that for a theory to be a theory, for it to be a theory, it has to be a principle. It has a universal application. So anyone who says one rule for you, one rule for me is a bad person doing bad thing and will only function in bad ways. Therefore, religion in principle is bad because they have a group for the in-group. The Jews get to do the genocide against the Palestinians. Different rule for the out-group. Same thing for all religions. That's what a religion means, to be bound by a saving belief within an in-group. Different rules applying to the out-group. Same thing for conservatives, same thing for capitalists. Billionaires don't have to play by the rules. Billionaires get 1 million houses. Non-billionaires get 0 houses. That sucks. So, principles have to be true for all mankind. Can't be contradictory in that case. So if we find a contradiction, it's a good way of weeding out ignorance that can harm yourself, your soul, and your society, and your relationships. So if someone appeals to belief or perception or opinions as truth, they can't make statements about truth, because truth has to have that universal quality, which is, again, across the green line. All they can say is, it appears true, or it seems true. That's the height. That's the limit. That's why we need to cross the green line. Anyone with the idea that truth is a matter of opinion, all they can do is agree with people who agree with them and call them wise. They can't disagree with anyone who disagrees with them, and they can't agree with anyone who disagrees with them. Therefore, all they can do is cast them out, mock them, abuse them, or murder them. So we're left with what we have in our society: belief-based groups in capitalism, religion, and conservatism that just kill anyone who disagrees with their false beliefs and calls wise anyone who agrees. Because the principle itself, it's true if it seems so. Someone who says, well, it seems to me it's false, you can't argue with that. Then it's false, or you're breaking your principle. Someone who says, well, it seems to me that you're right. We're on the same team. That's the irrationality of belief. All you can make is claims about seemingness. And you're left with saying that you can only judge things as opinions. You can't deal with the implications of opinions. So you shouldn't be in any positions of rulership. Why? Because a ruler has to see into the future, or the implications. See how the rules or laws see the implications, see the effects they have. You can't do that with belief. That's why belief-based groups only ever do harm. A doctor can see into the future and deal with the implications of this or that medicine or this or that illness. That's called having expertise. Therefore, absolutely always, belief should never qualify anyone to any position of expertise or rulership over others, or your own self. That's the thing. Don't be ruled by belief. It can't deal with the consequences. It can't predict the future. It will only ever cause problems. But fortunately, we are learning how to surface and address belief. And Harry said at the beginning of this conversation, by the way, if I don't see something about this belief, it tells me I'm still being affected by it. So when I function as a dialectician to help others through their beliefs, I'm learning more about the belief, and I'm also uncovering all of the little aspects that I've yet to see. Because once we see the beliefs, they're gone, they dissolve. What's the key word he uses? It's not dissolve. Hold, please. Aaliyah asks, what do you see when you help people? Through this dialectic. Here we go. The biggest task in saving ourselves and our planet is to see through the beliefs that prevent us from saving ourselves. What do you see when you test someone's understanding? Which, what we're saying, is what we're supposed to be doing. Sharing our understanding as a way of testing it, not debating it. Yes, here we go. What I find remarkable by going through dialogues like this one is that I can focus on what, to me, is mysterious. It's a puzzle to be solved, like a video game or something. Or a mystery novel. What is it that's mysterious? Making beliefs visible, understanding what maintains them, and what brings about their dissolution, so dissolves. You see, these ideas seem to possess such vast power over men's minds, yet once they are seen for what they are, they dissipate. So they dissolve or dissipate, like the morning mist. But if there's one I can't resolve, then I always discover there is something I overlooked in that very belief. Perhaps it was the way it was put, or the manner it was being held. Now, to the extent that I was unaware of it, I too held that belief. So through understanding, we bring awareness, we resolve, we dissolve and dissipate. So we're bringing it to our awareness through understanding. When that happens, I am interested in discovering why I held to it and why it escaped my notice. So as we practice exploring these ideas with ourselves and our friends, we learn more about how we bring beliefs to the surface, what maintains them, what dissolves them, and to the extent we understand them, we can dissolve or bring their dissolution, dissipation like a morning mist, by bringing it to our awareness through this dialectic. That's what we're doing. So we're developing understanding and purification together. So principles have to have a universal truth. We've seen that if they can't be disproven, improved on, or proven, that's not a theory, it's a prejudice. Also, if it's not universal, again, it's a prejudice. And again, seeing into the future or dealing with the implications, either in what we're doing by seeing the implications. Hey, welcome, Reeve. You're just in time for the end of the stream, but we'll be doing a music stream very shortly. So if you're around, we can keep talking over there. I hope you're well. So seeing the implications of an idea, to see the absurdities or contradictions or non-universality that follows, or the circular logic, or that it can't be disproven or proven, or in the positive sense, pushing the implications to see the positives like we are doing about the dialectic. What happens if we do realize that we benefit? What happens if we can explain why we think the way we think? What kind of a world would it be? What kind of a soul would you have? What would your death and reincarnation be like? What would happen for humanity? So, seeing into the future as a doctor does with his patients, or pushing the implications. Without that, which requires understanding, of course, all you can say is it seems true in the moment. Which is why the fascists go after the religious folk, or the belief-based people, or the people with prejudices. Notice that Netanyahu and Trump and these other fascists have a lot of prejudiced people who join their Gestapo ICE murdering and torturing people for fun. They join the ICE, they join the IDF, or whatever the genocidal Israeli state call their little gang. seems true in the moment, able to be manipulated to act against their own interests. And of course, those people who rule systems of judgment, or even those followers, all they can say is, if you agree with me, you must be wise. So, learned a lot about the limitations of it's all relative, or it's all opinions and beliefs and perspective. We have ourselves pushed the implications of what happens when we are ruled by belief, ourselves, our soul, our relationships, or our society. We've seen the other. Well, we've been inferring the other. What could possibly happen if we abandoned beliefs and prejudice for understanding dianoia, dialectic, and logos? What kind of a relationship would you have? And we've seen how the relationships result right now. Because here we have someone like Aaliyah who's interested in understanding, and someone like Harry who's not and interested in his own beliefs. Even at a public coffee shop, they're about to get into a fight. Thankfully, Euripides shows up out of the blue and offers some coffee. Which means next time, we will begin with a coffee and explore where Euripides takes this conversation. Can he help this failing relationship? How are your dreams going? Have you been recording your dreams? Are you seeing that there are certain states of mind that play out within the drama? They'll have a future implication as to whether or not you succeed or fail in your goal within the dream. So when we're looking at dreams, it's only within the dream world. What's the goal? Did you reach it? Was it a success or a failure? What role did you play in that drama? What state of mind was behind that role? And what message does that give us about the self? Have you seen that there are parts in your dream? Different scenes? Do they reflect other parts? As we looked today at structural similarity, is there a structural similarity between different scenes you might have in your dreams each night? Have you tried setting an alarm to go off every couple of hours? So you're left with, because that's, when we wake up in the morning, we think, oh, I had all these different scenes. Quite often they are different dreams. They go for 90 minutes and there's a break and then they go again. That's our REM cycles. But if you set an alarm, you might be able to remember, if you record it into audio as soon as you wake up, the scenes and see a structural similarity. Can you ask similar questions? Which is our theme for today. When is it the same? When is it different? What does it tell you about the key theme? Notice key words that might pop up in each of these different scenes. Is there a similarity between this drama or states of mind with what's happening in your present? Does it have a history in your past? Might you push the implications into how it might affect your future? And of course, does it reflect our reading and the questions you are getting from our reading? That's the game. Can you bring some curiosity or some insight, or not even an insight, just some curiosity about your dream into these podcasts, into these read-alongs, and see what it does to you? Could our dream maker be a kind of ultimate dialectician? Lots of questions. I hope you have them, and I hope to see you. And as we've been saying to our friends, if you want to, if you don't catch these episodes live, you can jump into the music streams where we talk and I play some tunes. That's a lot of fun. Jed Phoenix Music. Check me out on YouTube. Oh, not YouTube. I'm not on YouTube for the music, just Twitch for the music at the moment. Maybe we'll expand it if down the line. So yeah, jump in, have a chat, hang out, request some songs. If it's a song I'm somewhat familiar with and I don't know, I might learn it on stream. That's fun. And yeah, I'll see you next time with a dream in your back pocket, a question in your mind, and courage in your heart as we explore, where does Euripides take this dialogue? Feel free to join the Discord, and I'll see you next time.